Hey, welcome back. So it's now the end of September and it's getting a little bit cooler, although the sun has come out and it's now quite warm. But I'm loving the slightly cooler weather because it means I can get back into my favourite clothes, my dungarees and my big jumpers, and keep warm. Probably don't need the scarf today, but you know what, I just wanted to wear one. So today I've actually got a few crops to gather. I've got my squash and my beans to harvest, and I'm recovering from quite a nasty cold. So I'm actually going to take it quite easy today, not take too long, and be rather gentle. Whilst I'm here by my cosmos, I'm actually just going to do a little bit of light deadheading, but also now is a great time to be saving seed, and it's one of the things I definitely want to be doing with my cosmos. So for any varieties that I really love, such as the seashells cosmos, this one here with the really fluted trumpet sort of petals, that's one of my absolute favourites, and I'm definitely going to let some of these heads go to seed so that I can grow them for free next year. And the benefit of that is that, you know, they'll be much more accustomed to your growing conditions, and if you save the seeds from the strongest plants, then they should grow really well for you next year. The bees are still all over them, which is fantastic. But yes, September's been very mild. It's still been quite dry. We've had a few downpours, but it's still on the whole, and for the next fortnight, really quite dry. But the nights are getting cooler. We've had some nights where it's dipped to sort of 6 degrees. I know in some places, in parts of the country, we've actually had a first frost already. I think Charles Dowding experienced that. So yes, it's definitely getting cooler. My polytunnel door is now kept shut at night so that my chilies are going to keep ripening. And the days are getting much shorter. You know, it's getting dark now at about 7, half 7. Oh, which means I'm not here as much anymore, and it means that I haven't done as much on the plot. All I've been doing really is harvesting food. So I harvested all my tomatoes from the tunnel, which we'll see, all my apples and my potatoes, which you may have watched in previous videos. So yes, I'm gonna harvest some of my crops as we go around today. But I just wanted to stand here and enjoy my cosmos a little bit longer. I just really hope this mild weather does continue. We don't get too early a frost, because I just love making the most of my cosmos. Well, I suppose we should start at the top, as is tradition. And everything you can see is starting to go a little bit yellow, a little bit brown, and a little bit crispy. Like my hosta that's turning yellow now from all the colder nights and shorter days. But the flowers are still going quite strong, especially the dahlias, which I'm looking forward to picking some of over there. As for the sweet corn, I didn't get that many off it this time, but those that I did have tasted amazing. My apple tree, I've now picked all the apples that were remaining on there, and also down here are my raspberries, but they're not doing very well this year. I don't think they've enjoyed the heat wave because they do quite like damper sort of conditions. I must mulch these a bit better next year. Here's the plot from this angle, and I'm actually now going to harvest my squash plants because I'm so keen to see how many I've got over there. And it looks like it's about to rain, and I'm pretty sure my squash are ripe, and I don't want them to get too wet. So this year I brought back my squash mountain, my big sort of structural frame that's just made out of old bits of wood, such as tree branches, and then created a bit of a teepee sort of shape with them and let the plants grow all over them. And I've got a few here that I can see ready for harvesting, such as the red curry squash, my honey boat squash, and also the red dumplings. All of the leaves have now died back. They did get powdery mildew, so it's time to harvest them and let them fully cure at home. And that means that they'll have a nice firm skin that will help them keep and store better throughout the winter months. If your plants are still fully green, then that's fine. Let them carry on growing and let them die back naturally, but make sure you do harvest them before you get any frost. And when you cut them off the stem, make sure you're giving them a good sort of couple of inches either side of the stem. I know when I started I just cut it straight up here at the top, but that won't make your squash plants last very long. So give them a good couple of inches either side of that main stem so that they don't rot from the top, which can happen and you can lose your squash. So yeah, my first honey boat. I absolutely love this variety. It's super sweet. Definitely one I would recommend you try growing if you can get your hands on it. Nice little red curry. Again, so many of us grow this now because it's such a sweet, delicious flavour. Definitely another of my favourites. They're all my favourites this year. So yes, when I'm harvesting this, I'm going to cut there and cut there. What we want is this skin to turn nice and firm so that it stores for as long as possible. And if you can stick your thumb in there, then it's not fully cured. And I can already see that it's denting a little bit, but I tend to eat these quite soon after harvesting them anyway. But look at that colour. Can't get much more Halloween than that sort of orange. And look, it's got its big brother just there. Let's cut that one off as well. And always carry them from the base, never by the handle, because you might pull it off accidentally and then it won't store. I don't actually know how I'm going to get around this side. I've got so many plants growing around it. There we are. Ooh, we've got another pair of twins. Do be careful when you're touching the leaves. You don't really want to be doing that because they're quite prickly. Even the stems of some of these plants. Oh, there's one right in the middle. That's very awkward. The twisted stems also look great, you know, for Halloween decorations. It just adds to that sort of spooky vibe if you like to put them out on your mantelpiece. Mine are all going to be eaten. You know, I'm not going to be carving these just for the sake of it. Oh no. Well, that's all of them. Although I do already have 2 or 3 of the red curry squash at home that I'm yet to eat. So there is a little bit more than what you see here. But, you know, it's not a massive harvest this year, but that's definitely enough for me and my partner to get us through the winter time. Delicious flavoured ones. So now I'll be storing these in a nice, warm, dry, sunny spot in my home. I've got a bay window that gets lots of sunshine, so that's going to be the perfect place to fully cure them so that they store their best throughout the winter. I wouldn't recommend sticking them in a shed or in a polytunnel because it can get a bit too damp, a bit too cold, and also the rodents and other critters may come along and help themselves to your precious crop. All I need to do now is take away all of that plant growth and compost it when I feel up to it. And in front of it, I've just noticed here, look, some of my lettuce. I think this was called the deer heart tongue lettuce. Really, really dark red, almost purple black colour, is about to go to seed. So I'll definitely be saving some of the seeds from those as well. And in this patch in front, the courgette plants completely died back now. Although my pepper plants, I forgot I had some out here. They're still holding on despite being outside in the cold at night now. And it looks like we've still got some chilies coming on those, as well as some flowers on this sweet pepper. Might not get too far now with the season on those. But there's lots of this grass, the Panicum elegans, Frosted Explosion, which is a fantastic filler to go in with dahlias, and I absolutely love it. I'm definitely growing much more of this next year because there's a wedding to plan for. And also in here, what's now become, I think, my favourite dahlia. This one's called Zundert Mystery Fox. It's this beautiful yellowy orange, and I just love all that symmetry it has. All those petals. I love the ball type dahlias, and I find that they do actually have a longer vase life than the others. And the way that they just grow all the way to the back of the stem, like this one, just about to hit the stem. It's not even fully opened yet. Absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to probably grow more of these next year. Next to that dahlia, we've got this one, which I believe is Waltzing Matilda. and you've got a real unusual mix of sort of colours in there. It's kind of oranges, yellows, pinks, and like a dark crimsony red almost. Quite difficult to capture on camera, but this one's got dark foliage, which I really love. And the nasturtiums are just taking over, despite hacking them back numerous times. As for the carrots, which are down here, let's see if we can pull one out, see how they're doing. Oh, it's just starting to rain, and it's making the birds over there chatter away. I think they're long-tailed tits. But let's have a look. As you know, I have a bit of a battle with carrot root fly, which is why I keep them covered with the netting. I've got 3 varieties in here, some of which I haven't actually thinned. So yeah, they're going to be puny little things. I did sow them quite late, but let's have a look. Yeah, still some of them are quite small. Let's go for one of the bigger ones there in the middle. I think that's the king variety. Oh, hello. This one's looking quite promising. Ta-da! Got carrots. Now, I'll be harvesting these throughout the winter time, so I'm not too worried that some of them are still really puny. Obviously the foliage will die off a bit if we get some frost, but again, I think it's just been a challenge with the watering, which is why some of them haven't bulked up, and also because I haven't thinned them. Tried not to oversow them. Oh, the birds are so sweet. They're up in the hawthorn tree. The dahlias in this patch are still blooming quite well actually, despite some challenges. All my dahlias are now starting to get spider mite because of the dry weather we've had. They love dry conditions, so that's been a first for this year. I've not had spider mite on my dahlias before, and you know, because of this yellowing, and yellowing on your dahlias can often mean underwatering or overwatering. But when you flip it over, like on this one, it has a little bit of a sort of copper rusty colour, and if you look closely there is webbing on some of them, and that's telltale sign of spider mite. You see there, that copper colour, and it's really difficult to see because they're so tiny, but there is a bit of webbing down here as well. So they're still holding on and fighting, but the patch at the top of the plot are not as happy. I know some of you are asking about my pond and my fish, and unfortunately I have actually lost one of the fish, and I don't think it's because of a predator. I think it may have died of natural causes, because it was the smallest of the fish that I had, and I think it may have been a case of bullying. It may not have had enough food, or it may just not have been strong enough. I'm not too sure, but all the others are there doing absolutely fine. Unfortunately, it was the bright orange one that I lost, which would have been a rather nice, pretty one once it had fully grown. But yeah, the others are still absolutely fine and settled, very settled now. You can see that the pond leaves are starting to turn a little bit yellow and brown, and also I need to make a net to, well, 1, prevent any predators, but 2, to stop the leaves from the tree above from falling in like they have here. Oh, there's 3 of them, look. But yes, they're very sweet and fun to watch. Judith, the Sarracenia, is doing fantastic in my little rock project. And oh, this one's quite unusual, that the sundew, this isn't a hardy sundew because it's from Africa, but look, it's doing absolutely fine and flowering. So what I'm hoping is that the seeds will drop onto this rock and start to spread and maybe even grow on the surface of this rock. I may actually reduce the amount of cafe au laits that I grow next year. Although they are amazing flowers, they are quite big and heavy, and I just much prefer the pom-pom varieties now. Although it would make a great bridal flower, wouldn't it? I've now got my beans to harvest, and these are the borlotti beans that I sowed around May time, and I think it's been quite a challenging year for my beans as well. I don't have that many of them. The pods are much smaller than they have been in the past, but the ones that are fully dry and brown like this are ready for harvesting, whereas these pink ones, amazing colour, they're still ripening and drying, so won't be picking them just yet, but I do want to get these before they split open and spread their seed everywhere. And these are going to be great for soups and stews, that sort of thing. I'm quite keen to open them up as well and see how those pods look inside. The beans even. Not very prepared today. I need something to put these in. Woo. Yeah, not great, but not terrible either. We've also got lots of straw flowers on the way, and the marigolds there, which is forever blooming. And my pathway is still blocked by all the cosmos up here. Although there's a lot of foliage and not quite so many flowers. I think this must have been the later batch that I sowed. Let's go head up into the polytunnel. And in here, well, I've taken out the tomato plants now. I didn't get a huge crop from them this year, and I just thought it's time to cut it all back and have a good tidy up. So still got the chilies, and some of these have got some great pods on the way, such as this yellow Scotch bonnet. But yeah, not a great year. Despite all this foliage, don't have so many flowers and fruits, and some of them are just going to be a little bit too late, I think. So what I have done is just brought my tables back in, start my overwintering of certain plants. But look at that. That one's got quite a few more on. This is the one we thought was the Carolina Reaper, but we think it's actually that very mild pepper whose name I can't think of right now. This here is my ghost chili. Again, lots of flowers. It's got a bit of black fly damage going on, and also it could also have a bit of spider mite. Yeah, it has. I can see that slight webbing, and it's also yellowing as well. Yeah, it's just been so dry. Spider mite has been a bit rife, but it's covered in flowers, and I really hope we get at least a few of the ghost chilies to try. I also bought some purple sprouting broccoli plug plants from my local garden centre, and I potted up a nice parsley plant there. Oh yeah, I've also got some wallflowers for spring. I'm not going to be spending as much on tulips this year, so I've just got a few wallflowers, and I'll be reusing the tulips that are bulbs that I already have, for reasons that I'll explain in a future video. I have been harvesting some of my chilies and taking them home to freeze, dry, cook, eat, but I haven't had many of the yellows yet until now. But look at that gorgeous colour. I wonder how much heat that one's packing. Back outside, I noticed that my medlar tree that I planted last year has got medlars on it, and they're still quite firm, and you have to bullet these, which basically means you let them ripen and then go off a little bit, but you can wait for the frosts to do that for you. So I do have a few, which is encouraging to see. The tree must be settling in okay. So there you have it. That's the plot at the end of September 2022. I'm now going to harvest a few dahlias and catch up with you in just a second. What do you think to my bouquet of flowers? I just really love that colour combination, and that dahlia is absolutely gorgeous, and it's really going to cheer me up whilst I'm trying to recover at home. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. As we go into the next few weeks, I'm going to be using up all of my produce and preserving it as best as I can, such as my chutneys, my autumn chutney. It's time for me to make that one of my favourite recipes for using up tomatoes and apples. And I'm also going to be thinking about my winter jobs, you know, what am I going to do over the winter, and also even now starting to think about my plan for next year, because what I'll be growing next year is probably going to be quite different to what I've grown this year, but more on that another day. I've also got to think about my dahlias. Am I going to be mulching them this year or lifting them up before the real cold, harsh winter weather comes, if we have a cold winter, that is. So yeah, there's still lots and lots to think about and to be done. You know, there's a whole allotment to start tidying up and preparing for winter. I don't tend to grow many winter crops or cover crops. I've got a lot of clover that's actually covering the ground at the moment, so I'm going to let that carry on doing its job on any of my empty beds. And I'm also got to think about my garlic. Will I be growing garlic this year? Because if I do, well, this year, next year, if you know what I mean, for planting in the autumn. If I want to grow garlic, I need to start planting that in October, which means I need to start thinking about ordering my bulbs. So yeah, lots to think about this time of year. Anyway, I'll let you go, and thank you so much for joining me. And also please do let me know if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It really helps, and I'm so close to reaching 100,000 subscribers. Thanks a lot guys, and I'll see you real soon.